And
Great.
we're live.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Haley Boning. I'm here with Barry Chandler, and together we are the co-founders of StoryForge. We've spent the last 6 years helping hundreds of founders and CEOs get everyone and everything in their business on the same page, aligned with where they're going and why they're going there and how they're going to get there and what makes them different from all the other folks in the world trying to do the same thing. So we are here, this is StoryForge Live. These are our office hours that Barry and I have twice a week on Wednesdays and Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 a.m. Pacific. These are office hours that we've always had, the two of us, talking and sharing what we see in the marketplace, what we see with our clients, and sharing what we observe out there in the world. And we've decided in this time to take these live so you can hear our conversations and listen as we tackle the challenges and the questions that are unique to business founders and unique to visionary leaders. So we're going to share those questions and those challenges. We're going to share examples of businesses that we think are getting it right and businesses that we think are not getting it right. And at any time, you can also share your questions with us, either in the live chat box that's here on the right of your screen. You can also email us at purpose@storyforge.co at any time. And if you have questions that are unique to your business and you want to schedule time to speak to me or speak to Barry privately, you can always visit us at storyforge.co backslash, what is our backslash?
Forward slash same page.
Yeah, forward slash, sorry. Forward slash same page.
Right there on the screen.
Storyforge.co slash
Same.
Yeah, so you can schedule time to speak with us there. So sorry about that. So today, Barry, you and I have been talking the last couple of days of one particular question, one challenge that comes up for business leaders, founders, and entrepreneurs. And that is, how do you make decisions when you don't have all the answers? It's not a question that's unique to this year, but certainly we're hearing that come up over and over again. How do we make those decisions?
So I think we know that right now we are being asked as business leaders and business owners to make decisions with new information, without perhaps the same information we had a week ago, we had a month ago, we had a year ago. We are in a world that is changing very quickly. New opportunities, new challenges are being presented on a daily basis. Customers are looking for very different things, delivery of services and products in very different ways. Employees are looking for answers. They are working in new ways. Perhaps that's remotely, perhaps that's in ways that perhaps we haven't historically encountered before. And so we're making decisions that we've never made before. And that can be a challenge for a business that perhaps has done things the same way for many, many years, that has always had the same information to be able to make decisions, or had a pretty predictable system in place, a pretty predictable set of processes that made it easy to do what they were doing. Now, everything has been turned upside down. The apple cart has been turned upside down, and it can be very challenging for businesses to know how to best make decisions when it's not super clear what the new criteria are or what the world is going to look like in a week or in a month. And nobody, I think, could have predicted what we've now found ourselves dealing with. And knowing that the world is different, yet we're still trying to grow a business, or we're still trying to provide a service, or we still have something that's of value to our customers, we now find ourselves in a position where we have to make decisions without all the answers that we had historically. We don't have the same rules for doing business, and we certainly don't have the same insights or information about how to make our decisions in our business. But growth is still needed. Our lights still need to go on. Our employees still need to be paid. And we want our business to exist in 6 months, or in a year, or in 5 years, or in 10 years. So how do we make decisions when we don't have all the answers? Well, first thing is, we know that we need to make decisions. Otherwise, we may not have a business. But we're very curious at the moment, Haley and I, about businesses that are dealing with this new world and are dealing with a changing set of circumstances and are having to react and are having to make decisions with the new information that's presented to them. That new information may be how customers' expectations have shifted. It might be how employees have new needs, or it might be government guidelines, health and safety rules that didn't exist historically, restructuring, reimagining, changing the layout of businesses, of locations. All of these things are requiring us to make new decisions, and we're very curious about those who are dealing with these because it's changing so quickly. So one example that I thought it worth sharing, we thought it would be worth us talking about this morning, is this example of a business, a couple of different businesses that are in the same industry, and it's the bar and restaurant industry that are facing unprecedented change, no doubt about it, and maybe are the first to now be coming back on stream, or one of the first industries to be having to figure out how to operate in this new world where the expectations of the customers are now vastly different than they were 6 months ago. And even within the same customer base that you had, you're going to have customers who believe one thing and customers who believe another. So the one example that we want to talk about are these two businesses that are in Ohio that are dealing with the return to some sense of normality. The first has been in the news a lot over the past week because they reopened to much media attention. That's a bar in Columbus, Ohio called Standard Hall. And Standard Hall became infamous over the past week in the media due to their perhaps lack of social distancing or customers sharing video of crowded tables, crowded bar area, no distancing, no space between tables, and a lot of fear and a lot of worry amongst those who want to align with the rules. The other is three bars actually in Cleveland who are also dealing with the same revised guidelines from the state, are facing the same new uncertain world as Standard Hall, but they've chosen not to open their doors. And I think what would help us understand these two different businesses and these two different circumstances is to share a quote that was in the press this week from both of these different businesses. Let me put it up on the screen here. So on the left here, we have a quote in the Columbus Dispatch from Chris Corso, who is the owner of Standard Hall. And his quote was, "It wasn't enough for the health department." And the decision he made was to open the bar and to put in place what he felt were enough restrictions and were enough perhaps guidelines and to manage the business in a way that he felt was enough and sufficient. And in doing so, it quickly became apparent that to many it wasn't sufficient. And the first reaction perhaps was to blame the health department or to point fingers externally from the business. On the right-hand side, we see another quote from another bar in Ohio talking about three cocktail bars in Cleveland, Porco Cocktail Lounge, the Spotted Owl, and Velvet Tango Room. And Will Hollingsworth, the owner of the Spotted Owl, was quoted as saying, "The three of us, these three bars, we're not speaking for anybody else, but we've come to a sort of conclusion that this is going to require a pretty serious transformation in the way we do business, and we need time to figure out how to do that." So they are choosing not to open. Same set of guidelines that exist for both businesses, same information that's available to both of them, and both of them in the cocktail and bar industry. And two of them have made very different decisions. And the response to both of these has been very different. The response to Standard Hall's decision to open in the way that they opened was met with much criticism. And the response from the Spotted Owl and the other two cocktail bars in Cleveland was met with much celebration and recognition that this was a good thing to take the time to decide. So here we have, Haley, two very different sets of businesses, both in the same state, making decisions with the same information, and they've both been met with very different feedback in the market and in the public. Let's talk about why they're receiving very different feedback and how that's affecting their business now that they've made decisions with the same information.
That's true. Well, you're right that even when we think we're faced with a decision where we have incomplete information, we're making decisions with some amount of information, right? And the one thing that's consistent with these two businesses is they had the same guidelines from the state of Ohio about how to open and what the regulations were. What was different about these two businesses is one of these businesses was using a decision-making tool that was very different from the other one. So if you continue to read a little bit further in that Dispatch article about Standard Hall, you'll see that Corso and his team mentioned a number of times revenue. How are we going to make money? We have to open our doors. We're not a business that can socially distance. It's not possible, but we have to open our doors. And we've seen this in a few other articles that have come out, this focus on the profit. What we heard implicit in the conversations that the other Cleveland bar owners were having, both in the article that you referenced and a few other places, is they were using a very different decision-making filter. They were making decisions based on how they could operate their business in a way that kept their customers safe, that kept their employees safe, and that was their primary decision-making tool. So whether or not Corso and his team at Standard Hall think about it, they're using a decision-making tool that is entirely based on profitability. And what we're seeing from these three bar owners in Cleveland is they're coming from a very different place. So these two businesses are making decisions seemingly with incomplete information, with uncertainty about the future, but with a North Star for how they're using those decisions and how they're making those decisions. And we would refer to that as everyone being on the same page about a couple of decision drivers that when you have them and when you have clarity about what they are, they make these decisions very easy to make.
Right. And I think what this highlights, and what it highlighted for us when we came across these two examples, was first of all, of course, acknowledging the challenging times that business owners find themselves in, that they're forced to make very tough decisions. And it may seem like, well, you can't please everyone, or there's no right way to do it. Well, it's certainly true, and it has forever been true about business, that you can't please everybody, nor should we try. But what it is important to consider is that for your specific business, there are criteria, to Haley's point, beyond just profitability, beyond just the bottom line, beyond just how much money we're losing this week, this month, this year, that need to be evaluated and need to be measured if we're to make decisions that are going to meet the needs of more than just our bottom line. So we always make the argument that, and have held this position for a long time, and have based our entire business around this position and belief, is that a business doesn't exist just to make money. A business makes money when it meets the needs of those that it serves. So if we base all of our decision making just on the money making, we'll make very different decisions. We perhaps will make decisions that do in fact give us the revenue that we want, but in doing so doesn't meet the needs of our customers. Maybe it puts our employees at risk. Maybe it jeopardizes our long-term viability. Maybe it gives us very bad press, but hey, we've made the money. So if we're just about making money, we can make many decisions that are good or bad for everybody else. And our argument and our position, our belief is that that's really no way to run a business, or nothing that we can get excited about personally. We have a lot of respect for a business that in these very tough times takes the time to stop and evaluate and think about their business and their beliefs and their people in light of new criteria for decision making, in light of new governmental guidelines, state guidelines, new expectations from customers, new expectations from employees, but also beliefs and morals and positions that have guided them for a long time. Like, we always believe that our team should be taken care of, and I would never allow my team to be abused or to be treated poorly by a customer, or whatever it might be. Businesses have these long held beliefs, and if those go out the window in light of, or in favor of, pursuing profitability alone, we shouldn't be surprised that there comes this backlash that gets national attention, and nor should we be surprised if we uphold our beliefs and we stay true to them and we meet the needs of those that we've always tried to serve. We also shouldn't be surprised to see that we get a great response and a great reaction, even though we may not make the profitability or may not generate the revenue we so badly need so quickly. So isn't it this balance of not just profitability alone, but also using this filter for thinking about what we stand for, what our people truly need, in addition to how much money we need to make this month? Yeah.
For me, it's also about sustainability. So if it was only about having all of the money necessary to become a successful business, then every single business funded by venture capital would be a screaming success. But we know that that's not the case. You need more than just revenue. You need customers, you need employees, you need their loyalty, you need their engagement, you need their support. And businesses that can draw on those things in times that are tough are those businesses that have really thought and been very, very intentional about drawing the connections between those things that Barry just mentioned, between our beliefs, why we are here, what this business actually exists to do, and how we can achieve that purpose, how we can deliver that value to our customers, that value to our employees and to our community when things around us change. I think everyone's probably seen the very funny videos that have come out of a bar. I think it was on the East Coast that created inner tube tables that they hand out to every customer coming into the bar that they can put their drinks on, but that are 6 foot around or 3 foot around. So every patron is 6 feet away from each other. And that particular owner was interviewed this morning on NPR, and he said, yeah, we put them together. It was a little bit of having fun as a staff, as we were trying to figure out how we could open our doors back up and have people back in our business. So while it was a little bit of fun, that bar owner also said that there was a little bit of seriousness to it, that it was his team trying to think out of the box and be creative and find new and innovative ways to deliver what they deliver for their customers. He didn't use the words, but what I think he was really talking about was our purpose. Why do we exist as a business? What value do we deliver for our customers and for our employees? And how can we deliver that value at a time when all of these external things have changed? So that creativity about execution, about tactics, about strategies also comes from having a really clear understanding of your beliefs, of why you exist, of who you're trying to serve and what they need, and then using that as a filter for decision making rather than having been the only decision making filter being money, 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 revenue, revenue, revenue.
So if we acknowledge that business has changed, the world has changed, expectations have changed, we're presented with new insights, new information to make decisions. We know that we don't know what the world is going to look like in a week, in a month, in a year. However, we're constantly getting fed these data points that should be intersecting with something beyond just our bottom line. Our position on this and our belief on this and what we've seen to work very well is that when all of this new information is weighed up in conjunction with the things we stand for. So back to the original question and the purpose of this today's episode, how do we make decisions when we don't have all the answers? We make decisions using a filter for thinking. Profitability, of course, is one of the elements we must weigh up. But if it's the only one, we may end up making decisions that are perhaps not in the best interests of those that we serve, may give us the bad press like Standard Hall has perhaps justifiably received. Rather, we must make these decisions in light of things we stand for. And one of the drivers for decision making, even when we don't have all the information and we don't know what the world's going to look like, one of the big drivers for decision making is the question we must ask ourselves: what do we stand for? What are our beliefs? If our beliefs are that our team must work in a safe environment, our beliefs might be that our customers deserve a certain level of service. Our beliefs may be related to what the world should look like. Then those things that we made decisions using, those beliefs that we used to make decisions 6 months ago, a year ago, must still be considered and still be evaluated moving forward, even though the world is much more uncertain. So we very much be of the position that a belief is one of the very big decision-making drivers when deciding how to move forward.
So what does this look like, Barry, when a business has done the work to define these things, to articulate these decision drivers, and they have that one page that clarifies all of these decision drivers for their team, for their leadership team? What is the outcome of that? What is the difference that having that kind of clarity and having that one page and having everyone on the same page, what does that do for a business?
Well, it's a great question. We've always observed that having clarity on a number of areas of your business, such as the vision you have, your purpose, your beliefs, an understanding of what your stakeholders need, gives you a really clear framework for thinking. It gives you a really clear decision-making filter, and it ensures that everyone in the team uses the same filter for thinking. It means that when we do make decisions this way, when we do use our beliefs and our vision and more than just the bottom line for decision making, it means that we're being true to who we are. It means we are walking the talk. In other words, we have said that we stand for something. We're ensuring that when we make decisions, we are living up to this on a daily basis. We've seen the outcome of this being more a long-term viability for the business. In other words, thinking in the long term, not just in the short term, thinking about what it may look like in 6 months and in a year. What do we want our customers to think of us? What do we want the story we tell through our actions to be? So the outcome of making decisions with more than just the bottom line in mind, even though we acknowledge that it is essential to have revenue coming in and for that bottom line to be healthy. When you make decisions for bigger reasons, you start to attract people to you who share your beliefs. You start to engage an audience and inspire an audience and motivate an audience and build loyalty with an audience, both inside the business and outside the business, that want to either work with you, work for you, or do business with you because of the things you stand for, not just because of the money that you're trying to make. And we would see that as being a much bigger, more desired outcome than any amount of money alone that you can make. The fact that you've got a growing audience that shares your beliefs, that will go to war for you, that will defend you publicly and privately, and that will inspire them to engage and motivate and mobilize their friends and their family to come and do business with you or to work with you as well. I think those long-term benefits are of massive importance to a business that is looking for long-term viability.
Yeah, absolutely. And Facebook right now is our collective memory of things we did a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago on the same day. And yesterday, a photograph popped up in my feed of Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams. It's a shop in my neighborhood with a line that snaked all the way around the block. And apparently yesterday, on that day, a couple of years ago, was the day that Jenny's Splendid Ice Cream reopened their scoop shops after suffering from a listeria being discovered in their processing plant. And at the time, this was a couple of years ago, we thought, isn't this amazing that a business that had identified a potentially life-threatening bacteria in their scoop shops was met with this kind of customer loyalty, with this kind of surge of love for their brand, and all of these consumers lining up around the block to use their money to buy ice cream at this shop that had not just one but two listeria outbreaks in about a 6-month period. And I think today, all of us look back on that memory of what Jenny's went through and can see it as a really interesting example of what we are all going through now. Every business that opens up has the potential for a life-threatening virus to be passed along within their walls. And how we deal with that, how we approach that, and approach our response to that has so much to do with the clarity that we have about these decision drivers, with having everyone in our business who's making those all the minutia of decisions every single day, making sure that all of those people are on the same page about who we are and what we believe and who we are here to serve and why we serve them, and our long-term sustainable vision, not just for the business, but for the community that we serve. Having that kind of clarity and those understandings and having everyone on the same page will really give us what we need to be able to make decisions now, even when we don't have all the answers, even when the future is unclear. It's that kind of clarity that will help businesses not just survive, but also thrive right now.
And to add to that, if you're trying to grow a business in a meaningful way, in other words, grow a business that you want to have a bigger impact than just the bottom line, than just how much money you made from it. And we know that there are many of those businesses out there. We've had the fortune of working with hundreds of them over the past 6 years. Many business owners are driven by something bigger. They're driven by a bigger vision. They're driven by a change they want to make in their world. They're driven by a change they want to make in their community, in their lives, perhaps. And this shift in the world has put a wrench in the works. It has changed perhaps how that is accomplished and has perhaps put many of those plans in jeopardy. If you're faced with decisions today without all the answers, without all the information, without knowing what the world is going to look like, just know that you're not alone. There are many other businesses that are facing the same thing. And those that are finding a way through this, that are making decisions that are going to lend themselves to more long-term viability over the 6 months, 12 months, 10 years kind of time frame, are those that are making decisions beyond just how much money we need today. That means that they're also making very tough decisions in order to stay afloat financially, but they're also not veering off their own framework for thinking, their own filter for thinking. And their filter for thinking is related to their beliefs, their vision, their purpose, the needs of those that they serve, those things that are essential to guiding decision making for a business that wants to be more meaningful and wants to be more loved, desired, preferred in the long term. So just know that you're not alone. There is a path forward. But to answer the big question of the episode, how do you make decisions when we don't have all the information and when we don't know what's happening in the world? We always have to come back to our framework, our filter for thinking, our own little playbook, or our same page as we refer to. So if your business would benefit from having this same page, this one page that everybody can make decisions in, that to help you as you consider what's next, as you consider what decisions are going to be essential, not just for short-term survival, but long-term viability for a meaningful business. And we'd love to help you out. We'd love to chat with you. We'd love to help you think about that and maybe give you a plan just over the phone for how you might be able to do it yourself. So feel free at any time as you're struggling through this to schedule a call with us. Visit storyforge.co/same page anytime, and we'd be happy to chat. We've been doing this now for the past 6 years. We've worked with hundreds of businesses who have a purpose bigger than profit alone, who want to make some kind of impact, who are trying to have some kind of long-term legacy that they leave behind that has left the world or the community or their families' lives in a better place than before they started. And if that sounds like you and you need the plan to get there in these uncertain times, you may benefit from a phone call with us, and we'd love to chat with you. So a quick comment from Rooney, thanking us, wishing us a great Memorial Day weekend, remembering our fallen heroes fighting this pandemic. So we're here every Wednesday and Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 a.m. Pacific. Maybe we'll take a break for Memorial Day. Maybe we will. Memorial Day is a Monday, is it? It's yes, we don't on a Monday. Yeah, so we go live on a Wednesday and a Friday every week. And we would love to chat with you. Haley, do you have any other thoughts before we leave?
No, just to ask everyone, thank everyone for joining us, and encourage everyone to stay safe this weekend.
Sounds great. Happy Memorial Day to everybody, and we look forward to talking to you next week.